And welcome everybody to our next episode of Mac Yak number, I think we're what, 58. I had to look at the number up there.
58.
Hello.
As you guys may notice, I had a last minute change in the uh, background, so we had to use an old one. So it says PPC challenge, but never mind that. The PPC challenge is done. But I like this background, so I wanted to use it again because I do love that MDD there. It looks pretty good. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like it.
You don't have to ask me how I feel about the MDD.
Anyways, well, one of us is not here right now, and only in voice, and that'd be Jay. So if you look at him, he has got the black. He is the black box right there. But we are missing Grudy tonight too, because apparently he was driving all day and he's too tired to be on with us tonight. So we're gonna give him.
He's not tired enough to not take photos while he's driving.
So we're gonna give him all kinds of crap. For
damn right.
So you're not here, so you get talked about. Sorry, Grudy.
And Mike,
too. Well, Mike's never here hardly anymore, but he's got an excuse.
He's got a good reason.
Yes.
Grudy, no. He stays home all day. He doesn't do anything, and we all of us work for a living.
Tell us how you really feel, Greg.
Hey, I wish I could sit at home like that.
Well, I'm in honor of Grudy. I'm bleeding for him. So, yeah.
So Brock says he's riding his mini horse.
His trio of mini horses. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's got well, no, he doesn't have a trio of them because the only one he's got is the great. He's got the one Great Dane, and then he's got a little mini.
A horse is a horse.
Yeah. All right. So this is episode number 58. We're going to be getting pretty high in the numbers here pretty quick. I mean, almost at number 60. Wow. Anyways, we got a pretty decent show tonight. Not a whole lot of topics, but if you notice, we didn't really put the topics out there because one of the things we're going to do first off the bat is while we're doing the show tonight, and we'll get to it, we're going to let the audience pick a topic tonight, okay? And there's my clock in the background. It's a little bit late.
Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
So get your guys' brains ticking out there and pick a topic, okay? And type it into the chat there. And if it's a good
Mac-related topic.
Not Windows, not PC.
You're so picky.
Has to be Apple related. No, it doesn't have to be Mac. It has to be Apple related. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it could be like iPhone, it could be Apple Watch, iPod, whatnot. But we don't want to go down the PC road. Let's put it that way. So give us some topics there, and we'll pick one, and we'll.
Topics that we haven't covered before.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Preferred, yeah.
You can if we want to come back to it. If we covered it like over a year ago, and some of our new subscribers may want to hear us talk about it again. Who knows? So that's what we're going to do tonight. So you guys, what's holding Matt Gaming back? Okay, yeah.
There we go.
That's a whole hour.
Yeah, that could be a good one there. I'm just looking at. Have you guys talked about Hackintoshes before? I think we have, but that's another way.
Faintly.
Oh yeah, there goes Jay.
We lost Jay.
Just say you guys just scared Jay off, man. What?
Hackintosh? Why? Why would we even know?
That's a great chat.
Then we got another topic here: how to pull off a recap. Hey, that'd be a good one for Bruce there, and even Steve.
Yeah.
Steve's been doing a lot lately.
He has.
Bruce knows what he's doing.
Okay, we could go two different ways here: how to actually do a recap right, and how to do it Steve's way.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that.
Oh.
If you weren't a fine Patreon supporter, Greg,
All right, so that's what we're going to do tonight. So you guys keep throwing those topics out there, and one of you guys needs to write this stuff down. I'm the producer,
not it.
so I'm not it.
I'm not it either.
Steve or Bruce?
All right.
Steve or Bruce?
Yeah, let me stop bleeding over myself. Hold on.
anyways, that's what we're going to do tonight. So you guys, we're going to pick a good topic, and between the 5 of us here, we'll come up and figure out which one we really want to talk about. And we'll actually discuss that live to figure out which one we want to do. So you guys get to see what we do in the background when you're not seeing us sometimes.
You mean yell at each other?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So another thing before we get started tonight, Steve has got caught up in the Xserve bug. So tell us what you've been doing there with that Xserve, Steve.
Oh boy! So in 2015, I acquired an Xserve from my old employer, who were just going to toss it out. And shortly after I acquired it, I turned it on. It seemed to work. Moving a few years later, we moved into a different place, and I turned it on again. It didn't work. So Jay, as you may know, offers to recap power supplies for a decent wage. And I sent my Xserve power supply to him. He successfully repaired it and then got my Xserve up and running. So it's a G5 2005, I think, Xserve. It's a dual G5 processor, 2 gigahertz model. Only has a gigabyte memory. I need to put in more memory, put in more hard disks. But yeah, the power supply worked. It was fun trying to get it to boot. It sounded like a jet plane going off. And but once the operating system is installed, it's actually pretty quiet. And yeah, so I did a stream that lasted 4 hours last night.
When does none of your streams ever last less than 4 hours?
Well, all right. First off, I had
That's a valid point right there.
I had a dinner break, so that was what, a half hour. Yeah, so whatever. Might have been 3.5 hours. Anyway, we got it working. What was ironic about the whole thing is it took forever to get an OS on there. Then I realized there actually was an operating system on one of the hard disks already. But the operating system on there was just your standard version of Leopard, where we installed the server version of Tiger. As far as what I'm going to do with this server, I'm trying to think. It does have Apple Talk capability since it is a Tiger server. So I'm going to probably set it up to interface with a bunch of these PowerPC machines that I have sitting around, and maybe even some of the 68K ones. So that'll be something fun to play around with. I'm very excited that it works, so thank you again, Jay. And if anybody has any Xserves that don't turn on anymore, you may want to send Jay a message.
Yep, he actually has been doing pretty good getting people to sending him stuff to fix. So
It's kind of crazy, actually. Yeah, I got about 2 power supplies a week now.
Oh wow!
And Canada, England, Germany.
England and
I don't know,
Germany?
dude. I don't know where these people find me, or why they don't want to do it themselves. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to help out. But you know, I kind of try to talk people out of it. Like, dude, by the time you ship it here and back, you know, you might want to try the EVGA PowerLink first for the Mac Pro Pixels mod. But hey, if they still want me to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's something that not everybody has the skills or knowledge to do, and some people would just rather pay for it than learn how to do it. So,
yeah, I don't have the skills and knowledge either. I let my 4-year-old do it.
that's your secret. Okay, I didn't see that in your live stream. I must have dozed off.
Yep.
Yeah, I did some clever editing there.
All right, so I used to have an Xserve. I actually had 2 of them. I had the 3,1 and 2,1 Xserves, which was the Intel versions, but got rid of them before I moved to Virginia.
I didn't know that.
Well, the 2,1 didn't really work well. It was a dual processor one, but it didn't really work that great. So I parted it out and ended up getting rid of it at the end there. And then the 3,1 was
Those copper heat sinks, though.
Oh yeah, I actually sold. That's what I sold, was the copper heat sinks to somebody. So, but then I actually sold off the 3,1 to a guy locally there in Sierra Vista, Arizona, that I actually sold a classic Mac to. It was a what was it?
Was that the 6360 that you sold?
Yeah, that one. He bought that one off me too, but so I know it went to a good home at least. So, but because he likes those classic stuff and everything. So he might be one of our viewers tonight. I don't know. So
Reveal yourself.
So anyways, I know those went, but I did keep the Xserve RAID because that actually can go on any system. So it's actually connected to my Mac Pro. So I use it as a backup drive. I only turn it on maybe once a week to do backups, and then I turn it off because, like the Xserve, it's loud, but it's not as loud as an Xserve. So, but I think all of us.
Well, it helps that it has standard 120 millimeter fans that don't have that high pitched whining noise.
Exactly, yeah. And you can actually take out one of the fans. There's two fans in the back modules. You can actually run it with only one fan module if you need to. You can actually run it with one power supply. It has two power supplies. You only need to run it with one. So.
Yeah, you could be fancy about it.
All right, so let's see. I guess we're going to go ahead and jump in our time, unless you got anything to talk about Xserves there, Jay.
Not at the moment. I'm finishing dinner, by the way, which is why I'm not on camera. But wasn't there something else in that section there?
We already talked about the pick a topic thing, unless you're talking about that.
The 90-minute thing?
Oh,
Yep.
No, it's not in here. I don't see it.
Yeah, it is.
What?
It's right below
It's in the
the.
news and announcements. Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't
Okay,
got
we
to
haven't
that
got
yet.
to that yet, dude.
Well, that's because Bruce keeps shuffling everything around. I blame him.
I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm looking at the intro stuff right here, and it's like, I see Steve caught Xserve bug, audience pick a topic. That's the two things in there. So we've covered both of those.
Okay.
GT, I think we've
All
got a
right.
couple of comments in here saying your audio is a little
My
quiet.
audio's a little quiet.
Yeah. I think that was what was being said.
We did that on
All right,
purpose.
I could turn it up right
It doesn't
there.
sound
so
that way on
I can
here.
turn it up now. Is that better?
Turn it up.
Turn it up. I may have accidentally turned it down a little bit when I was playing with the audio settings on here. So, anyways, let's go ahead and jump into our first topic because this might take a little while. I'm thinking it will because we've talked about this stuff before. News and announcements, this is what we're going to talk about. We moved this up front because we figured this topic that we're going to talk about is Apple makes independent repair shops sign draconian contracts to get official parts. There's a Mac Rumors article out there, and I'm going to paste it in the chat here. If you go to that, you can see what we were talking about. But anyways, what Apple is doing in order for you to become an Apple repair, not an authorized Apple repair, but a repair shop that's going to repair Apple stuff and to get Apple parts, they are basically tying your hands behind your back in order for you to actually get into the program. So I don't think to be honest with you, I don't think a lot of independent repair shops are going to sign this because it's.
Yeah.
You would be surprised.
Well, I could.
I mean, they're imposing fines for
Yeah.
non-compliance, which I question the legality.
Well,
of
here's the
that.
thing, and a lot of people in the comments,
can't
I
do
read
that.
one of the comments, and this is a really blaring one, is if you're a repair shop that repairs not only Apple stuff, but you repair other products like PCs as well, then you're going to have other parts in there. And the way that they've written this, they can go in and inspect because they can actually, the way this contract's written, they can go in and audit and inspect your store. And if you have unauthorized parts, like Bruce was saying, then they can start fining you. And if you have parts for PCs per se, then they can sit there and say, well, that's unauthorized Apple parts, so we're going to fine you. You know.
Sorry, that's me.
Yeah, and I agree with the legality side of that. I don't think they're going to be able to hold that in court. You can't fine something if you're not an entity that has the power to
Yeah.
do so.
I think
And
they're-
there's no way they can do
Oh,
that.
sorry.
No, you're
I
fine.
think
Go
they're
ahead.
just trying to get away with as much as they can. I mean, they clearly have been strong opponents of the right to repair movement
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything. And this is their way of saying, no, there's a way for you to use our parts. But I mean, in the article here it says Repair businesses that violate Apple's rules can be forced to pay Apple $1,000 for every transaction during an audit period if more than 2% of business transactions involve prohibited products.
Yeah. What is?
I mean, that's
But
just
here's
insane.
the thing. What is prohibitive products? What if you're repairing?
That's probably a battery that's
But
not
what
an
if
Apple
you're
battery or
repairing
some
a
garbage.
PC? Okay, is that a prohibited product?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
too vague.
It
It's
is
way too vague.
And the other thing is, you know, you can sit there and get inspected. Now, here's the one other thing I saw in there. You have to provide Apple all your customer information. What kind of BS
No.
is that?
Yeah, that's right. Names, addresses,
Yeah,
the whole lot.
that is
Yeah.
Who would? What the hell is that gonna do for them?
It's Apple's way of getting more information. Probably what's gonna happen is they're gonna get the customer database from you, and when you make a repair on something, Apple's gonna send them something saying, "Hey, we saw that you got this repaired by this guy here, but we're no longer gonna warranty it because you had another guy repair it."
I could almost see an argument for just the serial number, but besides that, actually no. What the hell? They don't need the damn serial number. You're pouring apart.
Exactly.
Yeah, not unless it was to do warranty. Then I see that because warranty
But
verification.
I mean, they're instantly saying that even if you go to one of these, again, we're saying they're not authorized, but these people that are allowed to stock Apple products, if one of these companies works on that, it voids the warranty. So Apple aren't saying we're giving you approval to do warranty repairs. Essentially all they're saying is we're going to allow you to have parts. That's all they're really saying. And in return, you have to jump through all these hoops. And you have to question whether it's even worth that, whether they're just better off with aftermarket parts, it seems crazy.
Well, here's what I see, honestly, for companies that are going to do this, because you see it in other industries where they say something is prohibited. What'll probably wind up happening is a company will have a little section of their shop. It'll be divvied out as its own LLC, maybe underneath their umbrella, and then they're going to do the bulk of their work, except for Apple, in the rest of their shop, and then they're going to go, that little piece there is now this independent store that's a part of us, and they sign the Apple contract.
Yeah.
And then they get around all of Apple's BS.
Well, here's another issue, if you read more in that article, that even if you get out of the program, Apple has the right to audit you for 5 years after.
That's
What the?
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Just file for bankruptcy. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, really.
Basically, these types of contracts are basically dissuading people and trying to put these businesses out of business because they're going to find problems with this. They're going to find these small businesses and they're going to go under. They're going to go bankrupt. I mean, if you sign this contract with Apple, they're going to find ways to put you out of business. That's pretty much what this contract looks like.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So here's the question: if you're a repairer and this is the contract that you got in front of you, okay, so your alternative is to just keep doing what you're doing, but you're going to be using knockoff parts. Mm-hmm. So the question is this option really that much better than doing repairs with knockoff parts? I mean, I've done repairs on computers before, and no one has ever complained about me putting knockoff parts in there, as long as they can't obviously tell the difference. If I say this is going to cost you $100 instead of $1,000, no one seems to have an issue. Mm-hmm. So I question, is anyone actually going to take up this offer? Is it just a completely and totally hollow thing?
I think Jay is right, though. I think people are going to do it. Some of these smaller shops that need to get more business, they're going to do it. Like the Louis Rossmans, they're not going to do it. Okay. Yeah. Plus, the fact is, I don't even think Apple would let him do it.
Yeah, probably not.
So...
You can just imagine Rossman letting Apple in to audit the place, can't you?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I've read reports that people have been leaking to Rossman because, of course, the whole agreement and all the steps you need to do are covered by an NDA, and people are like, this is so stupid. Let me leak it anyway. So the whole process to get in takes a few months. It costs a lot of money. And now this, and people keep saying, oh, it's not legal. This is not going to hold up in court. Don't forget, this is Apple. They have the biggest legal team on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure
And
if they
apart from
put it in
everything
writing,
else,
it's legal. You know.
if they just say, you abide by these rules, or you're out. I mean, it's sort of people are going to have to put up with this behaviour if they want to be part of it. It's all one thing to say, well, it's against the law, but I mean, if Apple would say, okay, no worries, see you later, never again. Well, you'll have no contact with us in the future.
Yeah, and
Just like everybody else does on signing a shop for warranty repair. You screw up, you break the policy. All right, fine. You don't do warranty anymore.
yeah. But here's the thing, and I think, their argument is pretty bad about all these fly-by-night repair shops that do all these weird, these bad repairs and stuff. I'm sorry, but I don't buy that argument with Apple, because some of the repairs, like Louis Rossmann does, I mean, yeah, I watch some of his videos and he bashes on them a lot, but a lot of his repairs are little simple, board level repairs that Apple will not do. And in fact, I'm willing to bet you that even if you become an Apple authorized repair, or whatever they call it now with this contract, they're not going to give you the board level repair parts. They're going to say, oh, here's a board, replace the board.
That's right.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't forget why Apple started this. It's not because they wanted to, but so they can show legislators, like,
We're working.
right to repair, forget about
we're
it.
cooperating.
We have this program in place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're working
But
with
I mean, look. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go
If you think about cars, you think about mechanics. Now, if I've got a Toyota and I take my car to a mechanic and it's a really lousy mechanic and they do a terrible job, I don't blame Toyota for that. This is, Apple's, sort of justification behind saying we do repairs because otherwise it's the bad reputation for our product or something like that. I mean, if you draw a parallel with cars and aftermarket parts for cars and, mechanics for cars and all that sort of stuff, you look at the Apple's argument and it doesn't hold water.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't hold it at all, because here's another prime example you just said, okay? Let's say you buy a car and you want to buy an aftermarket part for it, okay? You put that aftermarket part on there and then you go in to get your warranty done, and let's say Dodge or whatever, you have a Dodge, and they see you got an aftermarket part on there and be like, oh, nope, your warranty's invalid. That's not how it works, Yeah. I'm sorry, but Apple needs to start understanding that people are paying thousands of dollars for these pieces of equipment that they're buying. They don't, I mean, it used to be, we went full circle in this, because I remember back a time when TVs and stuff, you used to bring, if a TV went bad, you brought it to a TV repair shop, you got it fixed. Okay. Then we,
you old.
Then we, yeah, I am. Then we went down to the part where everything's just throwaway because it's so cheap. Like you got VCRs, DVD players. It's cheaper to go buy a new one. Printers, it's cheaper to go buy a new one. Now we've come back around where stuff is starting to cost more, get more expensive, and we want to get it repaired versus buying a new one. Or we can't even afford to buy a new one because it's so damn expensive. So I think, that's what a lot of people's mindset is starting to get nowadays, and Apple is afraid of it, and they're afraid that they're going to lose their monopoly on being able to fix stuff for a ridiculous price, because the way Apple replaces something, they want to replace a whole logic board, and then they're going to say, oh, well, that logic board is going to be $1,500. Well, I'd like to go buy a new computer for that.
Well, that's what they want. They don't want to repair your stuff. They want to sell you a new computer.
Exactly.
That's exactly what they want. It's not in their interest to repair something for you.
Mm-hmm.
And, and on to the, kind of circling back a little bit to the, repairing the card, things like that. The Apple's argument about it to ruin the reputation, I think the exact opposite is what was true, because I have a perfect example in around where I live. There was a Apple shop called Haddock, and they had a phenomenal reputation. Their customers loved them. They were selling Apple products like crazy. They sold almost all the school districts in the area. They did huge amounts of work. They were highly loved by Apple. But the thing is, Apple starts their own stores, and the quality and level of work is subpar compared to all the other independent shops that were doing Apple work, doing Apple sales, that Apple looked like crap in front of independent shops that were providing service and repairs that were fixing problems and making people love Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Genius Bar is so flashy. Look at this beautiful wood.
Yeah, but the people they hire
know?
for the Genius Bar, no offense to you, Jay, because you used to work for one, is the Genius Bar people they hire there don't know jack about.
They don't
fixing
know.
anything.
They don't. And that already started halfway through my stint at Apple. Like, you used to get a customer, like, oh, I have this problem. And you were helping professionals with their work equipment. And that shifted pretty rapidly, actually, to my Facebook app won't start. And now it's the entire thing is, I call them iPhone geniuses. Ask them to troubleshoot a Mac. Good luck.
Yeah.
Ask them for shits and giggles, bring in your Xserve.
Well,
they probably never even seen one.
even that, Jay, I brought in an iPhone that I had a problem with one time, and this is no joke. The guy had an iPad sitting there, and he was going through a checklist. You would tell him what's wrong, and he would look up. He'd type in, okay, this is what the symptom is, and then he'd get a list of things that could possibly be. And so they replaced my camera on my phone, and I get it back, and about 3 hours after I leave the Apple store, it started doing the same exact thing again. So I made another Genius Bar appointment, and I told them this time, replace the phone. I said, because you guys replaced the camera before, I want the phone replaced, because the next step is going to be basically replacing logic board. So you might as well just replace the whole damn phone, because it was still under warranty. So
yeah, there's no excuse if it's under warranty like that for them to mess you around.
Yeah, but to piggyback on what Jay said, it's the Genius Bar has gotten dumbed down so much that the people they hire don't know anything except for what they read on their little iPad.
Yeah, the training now consists of how to deal with people. How to deal with people. You don't need any of the technical knowledge because it's all on the iPad in front of you.
Yep.
You punch in the symptom, and you get a checklist of stuff to do, and 9 out of 10 times, instead of taking the 5 minutes to troubleshoot, it's like, oh, let's just erase and restore, or erase and reinstall. Like, okay, what about all my data? Oh, you don't have a backup? Make another appointment. See you in 2 weeks. It has nothing to do with service.
Nope, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I think that, I remember going to the Apple store with my key lime iBook, and it was a drive away because the Apple stores were nowhere near us in the area, but we drove there, and the problem was a key would not fit back on the keyboard. Somehow a key from the keyboard popped off. And I brought it in. First off, everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's a key lime iBook. I love it. Blah, blah, blah. People actually were excited to see the product. There were like 3 or 4 people at the Genius Bar wanting to help me because the store did not have a bunch of customers in it because this is pre, iPod craze Apple. And so I walked in and I was treated like a king because there was like nothing else going on at the store. They were basically like, well, we'll try and fix it. If we can't fix it, we'll just replace the keyboard. And they were able to fix it. And the lady who was helping me there was like, take good care of that iBook. It's really cool. And, we had conversations and stuff. And, like, you will not get that type of service at the Apple store anymore.
No.
They are so overwhelmed. If you ever go there during the holidays, holy crap. I had the misfortune of having my iPhone about to expire out of warranty in, like, it was a few years ago. I think it was, like, November or December. And so I had to go to the store, like, to get it replaced. And it was just awful. Yeah, good luck getting anything done these days at that store. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's you walk into the store, even if you're there just to look around, like someone will ambush you with an iPad and an earpiece. Hi, do you have an appointment? The hell are you talking about? I'm just looking around. Oh, do you need to be partnered up with a super duper specialist? Whatever the crazy ass terms are now that they give their employees. No, dude, I'm just looking around. Oh, stand in line over there. Line? What are you talking about? I'm just browsing. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
But everything is hyper managed now. Every department is half an hour to an hour behind on whatever appointment system there is. and I'm proud to announce I haven't set foot or even been in the same mall as an Apple store since 2015.
Well, I mean, but getting back on topic here about the right to repair and this contract issue, I think the contract is a load of crap, and
Yes.
I think that
It's meant to be.
this is going to go pretty much viral. I think we're going to see a new Rossman video here soon about it, probably, if he hasn't already done one. But
Stop giving him free ideas. This costs
I
money.
know, right?
oh, you know he's already going to probably do one. I mean, that's a given. But we were first.
Yeah.
But people will jump on it.
Yes.
And Apple will get their money or their value from this deal one way or another. Like, okay, you want right to repair, we're gonna screw you this way.
Yeah.
You want this, we're gonna screw you that way. They'll get what they
Well,
want.
I think that this is my opinion on it, and I'll be quiet after this. But the whole opinion of this contract is to put these guys out of business because they're going to find ways to fine you $1,000 at a time until you can't pay anymore. And then even if you get out of the program, 5 years you still have to deal with them being able to audit you. So
Yeah.
I don't like Steve said, I don't think it's going to hold up in a court of law, but Apple, like Jay said too, is Apple has a army of lawyers and
Yeah.
they pretty much know what they're doing when they put that stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if someone takes them to tries to fight them over this and they adjust their laws because they're going to start out as strong as they can, and if someone's successful at whittling them down, we'll see. But it's just a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
I think.
In the meanwhile, don't be desperate for business. If someone watching this has a repair shop that is considering this, don't. Your business isn't that bad off without
Exactly.
it. You know,
Lewis
you'll get by,
Rossman's-
and you'll do it on your own
Lewis
terms.
Rossman's doing good, and he doesn't get any. In fact, they actually have seized parts from him at customs. So
What right would they have to do that? Are they actually parts that have been branded as Apple?
okay, they were.
Apple's got special deals.
Yeah, they've got their hand in U.S. Customs, I guess you might want to say, and they're able to actually sit there and say, "Hey, these are counterfeit Apple parts, and you need to stop them." Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
from
surely
the-
they're only counterfeit if someone is trying to brand them
Exactly.
as Apple. If someone is saying
Well,
these
they
are
are
brand X parts, they're not.
but they are branded, but they are
Yeah,
actual
so-
Apple parts too, because what they're using, they're actually taking real Apple parts off of used equipment in China. They do this all in China. They refurbish it and then they resell it. So it's actual Apple parts, real genuine Apple parts, but Apple calls them counterfeit because they're not supplying them.
I think it started with batteries because there was a shipment of batteries or something that this whole started with, and they were branded as Apple batteries. The box was saying they were Apple batteries or whatever, and Apple must have got wind that people were importing these batteries and fixing phones on the street or in a car or at a shop or whatever. And I think that sort of started this, but it's affecting people in adverse ways as well because I think I mentioned this on the show before. Somebody bought a Macintosh Portable and had it shipped overseas, and that Macintosh Portable disappeared off the face of the earth because customs decided that it was Apple and it may have had a battery in it. So,
Yep.
I buy parts online all the time. One of the funniest one is if I need a new glass panel for an iMac. I buy those mostly China import because it's the cheapest way to go, and save your customer some cash. When I get them, they are beautiful. You cannot distinguish it from the real thing, but it has an Apple logo on the glass at the bottom, in the center of the thing. So there's some black tape over it, and apparently that's enough to just have it go through customs without any issues. So
I did not know that.
There's
yeah,
ways around
I
it.
believe it.
That's did not know that.
And just my 2 cents, I don't think, honestly, that Apple is using this as a way to try to put those shops out of business. I genuinely think Apple doesn't really care What Apple's trying to do is save face with the government and make a dime at the same time.
No,
But I don't think they're going to try to put those shops out of business. They're going to make it very hard for them so that when they make a dime on these people, that they're not going to let them be successful at it. But they're not going to hinder them so much as they're going to try to put them out of business.
Yeah.
Because they know they're just going to get around.
yeah. So, but yeah, I agree with you there, Rocky, a little bit, but I still think it's a way they could sit there and say, see, we're doing something for right to repair, but at the same time, they're screwing over the people that are trying to repair stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like I said, putting them out of business is a way to get rid of them.
You know, if Apple was smart, they would realize how much money they could make selling replacement repair parts versus
make a lot more money this way and by selling new computers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, they could make a lot of money just selling parts. I mean, I'm sorry, but even car companies do that. In fact, if you look at these car companies, they don't make a lot of money off the cars. They make them off the parts, okay? Because the life of a car is pretty long. And so when you buy parts and stuff, and that's pretty much, if you ever see like the Tesla, this is getting off topic a little bit, but if you see the Tesla versus a gasoline one, the reason why these car companies were seriously against Tesla was because it required very few parts. And they knew that was the destruction, because they did not want to go electric because they couldn't sell parts. That was, if you ever watched that, there's a show, What Happened to the EV Car. This is back.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Yeah,
Who killed the
EV car?
And they talk about that. They say it's the parts is what basically killed the EV, because the car companies couldn't sell parts. They were losing money on the EVs. You know? So, but Apple...
Every dealership has a repair shop because it makes big
Exactly.
bank.
And Apple should be the same way. They should actually let people buy their parts, because they could make bank.
You know what? We should all just stop buying, but that's not going to happen. They're too big. They're almost at a point where they're too big to fail. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, they infringed on a patent, and they got slapped with an $86 million fine.
They just wrote a check and said,
Please. Here you go. I might have some
Hey,
change
Tim
in my
Cook,
pocket.
you got any change in your wallet? Yeah.
Yeah. So the only way a company like this is going to feel the sting is if you hurt their wallet. And when you have $1 billion in the bank, you need a lot of hurt to wake up, and that's just not going to happen anytime soon. So I'm happy with all my used equipment. By the way, I just picked this up today.
Oh, that's so pretty.
MPD.
Oh, nice.
Sexy. And I'm perfectly fine using that for a lot of different things. You know, my Mac Pro will last me a while.
yep.
Just stop buying new stuff and start selling or start buying used stuff.
Yep.
I wish I could, because my company, we're going all Apple phones because Apple does it right on the enterprise level of devices.
Yep.
Android can't do it.
All right, guys. So the next news announcement here, this is a new one here, and this is the one Jay was talking about earlier. Is Mac Yak is going to aim to become a 90-minute show going forward. So we're going to try to keep it at 90 minutes. Probably not tonight, maybe, but
Breaking the rule already.
we're already 40 minutes in, and we still got a bunch of stuff to talk about. But we're going to try to shorten it a little bit to 90 minutes versus 2 hours or 2.5 like we've been doing lately.
Lando's like, yeah, right.
We're trying. It's like we promise. We're aiming. We're estimating. We're trying.
It's not Lando. It's Londo. Get it right.
Londo, I'm
I
sorry.
called
I
him that
apologize.
forever, and so now, see Londo.
Just call the poor guy Dana already.
Yeah, there.
Anyways, so we're gonna shoot for that.
Greg, you don't get a vote.
Yeah, we're gonna shoot for that. But wait, so Greg goes, when the hell did we come up with that? You missed the meeting there, bud.
Yeah.
while you were driving.
Yeah, that's why you were driving.
Yeah.
Or and the opposite, we have another idea. If this fails, we're going to do a Big Brother style podcast where we all just carry 24/7 live cameras.
Well, most of you.
Be a lot of barking.
Well, I think 2 of you are pretty much live all the time, anyways, and I think that's
Right.
Steve and Bruce there. So
I gotta stop.
I'm been a bit slack lately, but yeah.
we're gonna start calling it the Steve Show. You know.
It's all from peer pressure from Jay, though. He's the one that comes
It
up
is.
with, hey, which one of you guys
I
is
am
streaming?
innocent in this. I don't know what
Very
you're
good
talking
at
about.
No, I
No,
think-
this is not a joke.
Nope, this is not
I
a
think
joke.
that
We're gonna try to do it.
Yeah, I think we could. I mean, we always joke about how we go off topic and anything, but I think that having sort of maybe a smaller structure would help us a little bit more organized. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Doubt it.
We can't keep to 2 hours. It's going to be interesting seeing us cut off 30 minutes
Well-
before that.
Well, I mean,
Okay, moving on to the next topic.
yeah.
yeah, exactly. Greg's gonna get like a big gong, and every time we're like, I'm in over, boom.
Well, you guys don't see a lot of the stuff we do behind the scenes here. We have instant messenger up behind the scenes, and so we're typing each other, and I'm sitting there like,
Move on. Move on.
I'm like,
Regularly said,
move on. Okay, me as the producer, I'm like, we need to move on. So,
Speaking of, that may or may not have been in a text just now.
Yeah.
actually, it was. I said, okay, need to move on.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did.
See, that's why I
like
ignore
keep
every
going
text that comes in while we're streaming.
Yeah.
Oh, there it
So we'll
is.
see.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes
Yeah.
if we can successfully do it or not. But you know, we like the feedback also.
Yeah.
We just feel like sometimes we go a little long.
Yes, we
but-
do.
Just watch. We're going to nail it and end at exactly 90 minutes. Then we're going to spend 5 hours on Discord after the show.
All right, guys. So let's go ahead and move on to our first section, topic number 1 tonight, which is cool Mac hacks. We talked about this, I think, about a week ago. We were talking about some of the cool, neat hacks that we've actually got for our Macs, and hardware and software hacks we're talking about too. So if you guys out there in the chat could figure out anything that you think is a really good hack, let us know in the chat here.
Yeah, and I'll start with an example, if
No,
you
go
don't
for
mind. This is, and we're not talking Hackintosh or LEDs or any of that stuff. This is to expand the functionality of your Mac well beyond what it was originally supposed to be doing. One of the examples I'll throw out there is the Pixels mod.
Mm-hmm.
You know, powering graphics cards that are way too heavy for the Mac Pro in their current form, but you bypass the logic board, splice off a cable in your power supply, and voila, you can run whatever crazy card you want.
I have it
Oh.
done to my Mac Pro. So it's a real simple mod. Takes about an hour to do. I did it in an hour. I think Jay does it in about 40 minutes or so, less than that, because he's done it so many times.
Or pay
I-
Jay to do it. You know.
I actually did one last week with 2 Pixels cables coming out of the power supply. This dude was running some serious hardware.
Wow.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Is that nine? Is
And,
that 900 watts going to be enough?
yeah, it depends on what kind of card he's running, but
Yeah.
well, I haven't
the
heard
cash is good.
anything,
You're not going to question it.
that too. And the second example I'll give of a software hack is Colin Misters or DOS Dude 1's patcher
With-
for Mojave, Catalina, all
Well,
that
for
stuff.
not only those, but he goes back to like Mountain Lion, I think, all the way from Mountain Lion up. He's been doing patches for that pretty much for a long time. But again, I am actually using DOS Dude Patcher on my Mac Pro here, running Catalina on this Mac Pro.
Now I have to say, and maybe he'll be watching, but I have to say the making the 2011 MacBooks functional again with their GPU disaster, and not only the software that came out before, but now the actual ability to solder in a patch that bypasses the dedicated discrete GPU.
Actually,
Oh, you mean the
That-
Mux hack?
Actually,
Yeah,
that's
that brings them back to life.
outdated there, Rocky. He actually has a newer
Yeah,
one
they changed-
where there is no soldering involved. You basically
Oh,
he flashes
Firmware bug.
the firmware, and it basically disables the discrete graphics.
that makes that even better.
Yeah.
Then holy cow, that's awesome.
He
See,
went
that's
from
better.
I don't know if you guys remember back when he first did it. He went with all the little bodge wires bypassing it. Then he came up with the Mux hack. Then he came up with a way to just disable it without even doing that. I mean, firmware wise, So
That's a huge one. That's
Colin
big.
Mister is a smart guy. I mean, for such a young guy, he is smart. I mean, he takes his stuff and he could do wonders with it.
Did you just call him a smart
No.
elf?
I said he's a smart.
Okay. So those were two examples of what we intended with this topic. Anyone else got one?
Well, there's some more listed
Well, I
in
got
there.
another one.
And this is one
Yes.
that probably Steve and Bruce use a lot of is the Mac OS 9 Lives. That
I actually only used it once, but
I actually use it.
Yeah, I think they're more OS 8 and older
Yeah,
guys.
it's probably. But the Mac OS 9 guys, they basically have modded OS 9 to make it survive past its usefulness. And it works rather well. In fact, I use it on my G4 back there as well. So Rocky,
yeah, I think
I use it
yeah.
as well.
I guess the whole purpose of that is to make it like the last G4 Mini or the first G4 Mini and some of the Emacs and such that just did not have native 9 support. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It does work on some, yes.
Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
not,
That
not
should've-
flawless. Like if you install it on the G4 Mini, it works great, but you lose audio. For example, you need a USB audio device to.
Forgot I had that.
I'm sure there's other systems that are not fully compatible, but every machine I've used it on so far, it runs
Yeah.
great. So it's definitely awesome to be able to use OS 9 on unsupported hardware. It's pretty cool.
Yep. Oh, Jay, this is one that you do a lot of and failed a lot on it too. CPU overclocks.
I don't know what you're talking
Oh,
about.
I love that one. I've still got an overclock.
Yeah, I think that's a
G4.
cool hardware hack. Get a few extra megahertz out of your G3 or G4, or I don't recall the exact names, but I've seen it in Bruce's stream that you can replace a crystal or oscillator and get a faster clock speed on a 2C XV5, whatever they're called. Yeah.
Because the interesting thing with that one was that computer was deliberately sort of scaled back. It was going to be released as a 25 megahertz machine, and then got released as a 20 megahertz machine because they didn't want it to compete with the 2CI. So that one was a hack where you were almost bringing it up to what it should have been, rather than pushing it past its limit.
So
Now I've got a
Go for
few that I want to put out. Now, of course, the favorite that we all do, and I don't think people want to consider it a hack, or mod, but it is. We replace the Apple crappy garbage thermal compound everything with something that is actually proper.
except I think they've
And
learned their
so-
lesson. Like Jay saw us and I saw where on the new Mac Pro they're actually using good thermal compound now.
Well, I don't know
for
if it's
$6
good.
grand, they better.
They're probably still using the garbage paste, but the
It's
application
better.
didn't look half
Yeah.
bad. It wasn't overflowing on every side, and it looked better.
Yeah, and then my second one would be for the Mac Pros out there, the classic Mac Pros, modifying them to use newer, like iMac Wi-Fi adapters,
Bluetooth,
the
yeah.
airport cards,
I
whatever you
have to
want to call
do a
them.
video on that. Thanks for reminding
Yep.
me.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so that's a good hack
Yeah.
too. And of course, CPU upgrades themselves. You're limited to 3G4 and Mac Pro there, but I don't know if some iMac.
No, you could do that on some of them.
Yeah,
the 2013 definitely.
Well, my 2017 that I had at the time, you could actually upgrade the CPU, but you could not upgrade the GPU. The GPU was soldered in,
Okay.
the CPU was not. Go figure.
Okay, I don't know if CPU upgrade is considered a hack.
Nah, I don't
but,
think it really is much.
You know, I prefer to just overclock the existing
Now,
ones.
another hack that you just did, Rocky, on your North Bridge.
Yes, repairing that problem with the plastic little stupid pin holder.
Yep. Putting.
I should have done a video
yeah.
on that.
So that's another neat little hack. I mean, I've seen people put extra heat sinks on there, do other things to blow more air onto the North Bridge. Because a lot of you guys, if you don't know, the Mac Pro is a really good machine, except the North Bridge gets really hot.
On the 4,1, 5,1,
Yes.
because the 3,1 and 2,1, 1,1 do actually use metal retainers, unlike the 4,1, 5,1.
Yeah, they use the plastic, and if one of those little plastic ones break, then the connection or the surface area is a lot less, because then it's kind of off-centered a little bit. So, but Rocky did a bolt-on job there that basically works pretty good.
Which is why I
Very
keep
good.
this around. A little baggie full of replacements for the North Bridge pins. Because I need them often.
Another thing we got on the list here, and this is Steve's thing, but also I use something kind of like that, but I use not a SCSI to SD, but I use a IDE to SD on my G4 back here that I use. So it's kind of the same thing, and it's one of these actually.
So this,
Yeah, just way cheaper.
yeah,
So
Probably.
Yeah.
this is
these are
this
sorry.
is
Those are nice.
this is an IDE to SD adapter. Works pretty good. So you got the
Well, adapters in general. I mean, for the Xserve, for example, I use IDE to SATA adapters. Adapters can technically maybe not a hack, but they are really damn convenient.
well, I mean, you're using something in a machine that wasn't designed to use. In fact, like the G4 was not designed to use an SD card.
right.
So and some of Steve's machines were never designed to use an SD card.
Yeah, and the
of
whole
course,
purpose. Go on, Bruce. You're probably going to say exactly what I was going to.
you might. The thing is that I regularly see people posting on Facebook about these old Macs, and when they say, "I've got this old Mac hard drive, it's failing. Where can I get a new one?" And you can't. It's as simple as that. You can't get a new one. You can get another one that might break tomorrow, but you can't get a new one. So, it's a way of actually keeping these things going, because without them, you're just going to be looking at a flashing question mark.
Exactly, and a lot of people who are getting these classic Macs don't realize that Apple used SCSI as the interface for their disks. They didn't use ATA or IDE until their cheaper systems, and then to the G3 towers, it became a standard that they used. But it's a different interface, a different plug. It's not as simple as the SD card to IDE adapters, because there's no shared data rates and chipsets and things like that. Where those adapters you get under for $10, these are about $60 and up. But they're phenomenal little cards. These are not mass produced. They're produced by one company, I believe. So you're paying a little bit more out of pocket for it, but they're phenomenal. I have two of them. This is a version 6 here.
How many chips are on that?
and
Is
this-
it two chips? Two main chips?
No, there's quite a lot of little
Well,
ones,
I think
too.
those are.
So
but
the
yeah,
little-
there's-
Yeah, I think those are just like transistors or maybe resistor packs or whatnot. But
I don't
Yeah,
know.
the little row at the bottom to do with the termination.
Okay.
That's-
And then there's this is the version 5.1, which I added on a DB25 connector. You could ask them to do that for you for a few dollars extra, but yeah.
Now, how
it's
do you set the
pretty handy
termination
device.
and the
Software.
ID? Is
So-
there?
There's
Okay.
a little USB
Software.
micro B port there, and you could just plug it in. There's a little app that you could download, and you're able
Oh,
to
sweet.
set all those settings, which is nice. You get a different profile set up and whatnot. So it's
And because
pretty neat.
what some people may not realize about SCSI, which is a very revolutionary thing in the olden days, was that the fact that you could have 7 devices attached. So, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
you would have your computer and you could attach CD-ROM, you know, scanners, external hard drives, the whole thing. And so, you know, and you could daisy chain them, and they all just had to have a specific ID. And so you look at it now and you sort of think, what a pain that they use SCSI, because, I mean, I can jump onto eBay and I can buy an IDE to SD for, you know, a couple of dollars versus, you know, spending, well, out here it's, you know, over $100 to get one of those SCSI to SDs. And so, but at the same time, it was at the time, this was pretty revolutionary stuff. I mean, SCSI did a lot of good things for Macintosh at the time. But I mean, another thing you can do with that SCSI to SD is you can actually create multiple hard drives on it. So you can go in and set one hard drive at SCSI ID 1 of a certain capacity, and then another drive at SCSI ID 2 and a certain capacity. So you can kind of create it, you make it, when you plug it in, that the computer thinks they're actually, you know, a series of devices all plugged in at the one time. It's a very clever piece of kit.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. I like
But
that. And
Yeah.
what people don't realize about SCSI from that era too is that it was also faster than IDE.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. But
And on some G3s, you can't live without it.
yeah, because
Right,
it
Steve?
actually, even these little IDE cards are faster than the spinner drives that came with the computer. So they do boot up a little bit faster. I noticed, especially on my G4 back behind me here, does boot up a little bit faster using it. The next thing we got on our list here for hacks, flashing PC GPUs for Mac. And I actually have one that I have actually flashed myself. This is it's a Radeon XFX R7900. It's a 7970 actually is what this one is. And I actually flashed this one to have boot screen and everything else. And I did it myself and it worked perfect. It actually does work, but the drawback is I lost one of the DVI ports doing it, and that's actually in the documentation saying that you lose one of your DVI ports.
Same with mine. I've got a 7950 that's been flashed, and one of the DVI sockets doesn't work on that either. So
Same with my, what is it, 290X,
Yep.
I think. Yeah. It has a switch, Mac or PC. If I set it to Mac, I get a boot screen, but I lose one of the DVI ports. Stupid, but
Yeah, it is dumb, but I still have both of my mini display ports on here, so that worked out pretty good because I have mini display port cables anyway. So,
Now I have to say the GPU flashing the BIOS, I don't care about it post Intel, you know, going into the Intel era. To me, I don't care about a boot screen. But what mattered to me is it was required in the day when you had PowerPC. Like I have a bunch of PowerPC. I used to flash the crud out of cards. Like I would go to yard sales, buy graphics cards, and my goal was, can I flash this and shove it in my Mac? I mean, I remember that. I love that.
Now, here's a new thing that's coming out, and Brock can verify this with me, is this new thing coming out called Open Core, which is still in beta right now. It's still in development, but
Why'd you say Brock?
because Brock,
Wasn't it
no,
Bruce?
Brock is the one that came up.
that
No,
wasn't me.
he's the one that's I've been
I'm
talking
sorry.
to offline about this because we're both interested because he runs the same video card I do in his Mac Pro. But what the Open Core is doing is basically you don't need to flash your card anymore. You can run a PC card in your Mac Pro, still have boot screen, and still have native Catalina support on your Mac Pro. In other words, you do not need to use the DOS Dude patcher, and you can upgrade it using Apple's update service instead of waiting for the DOS Dude patcher to come out and be updated.
Sounds really interesting.
Yes.
yeah.
It's a lot. I've been reading up a lot on it. It's a lot of work to get it done. I'm going to be playing around with it soon, but I'm going to be doing it on a cloned drive because I'm not using it on my main drive. Yeah.
Smart.
So, in fact, that's one of the things first things they recommend in the reading is never use this on your main drive. Use it on a separate drive. Because I use a dual boot system. I do use Windows on my Mac Pro to game. And therefore, right now, in order for me to boot back and forth between operating systems, I have to open up the case, pull my Mac OS 10 disk out of slot number 1, bay 1 in there, and then boot it back up, and it boots into Windows. Then when I want to boot it,
You don't use the startup disk
No.
chooser and
here's the
Boot
thing:
Camp?
I don't run Boot Camp because I have it on separate disks. I'm not using Boot Camp.
Yeah, so do I.
I'm not using Boot Camp though. Okay, Boot Camp is a pile of crap. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
It works fine.
Them's fighting
online.
words.
I'm telling you, Boot Camp when you're using Windows is a pile of crap because
Doesn't do
especially,
anything.
yeah, it does. Especially when you're using APFS and as your boot, it messes up a lot of stuff.
That's an Apple
Yes,
problem. APFS
Exactly.
is an Apple problem. Don't contribute that to boot
But
camp.
I don't
Boot
have
camp
a
worked
problem.
perfectly fine in 2006.
But you're not using APFS, are you, Rocky? Oh, are you?
Yeah. My 1013 is running on an APFS, even though it is an old 2008, because my daughter's using the one with proper, legit stuff on the 4.1 that is my computer,
Yeah.
but she
But
commandeered it.
I'm
permanently now,
running
apparently.
mine as no boot camp. In other words, I could do it in the Mac to boot into Windows, but then it's permanently set there until I do an SMC reset, which I'd have to do every time, which is a pain in the butt. So it's easier just for me to open up the Mac, pull the disk, and boot it that way. And then when I want to boot back into Mac OS, I shut down Windows, I slide my disk back in, and it boots into Mac OS. So, I mean, that's my hack right now that I'm using until I can get this open core set up and working. And if it works really great, I won't have to do that no more.
I still don't understand why you don't just install Boot Camp on Windows. I've been running Boot Camp. I've got the latest version of Windows
I
on
do
here.
too.
You just click and you go reboot into Mac OS, and
I don't want to do it. Trust me. I've tried it, and it screwed up my Windows when I did it. So I'm not going to do it again. Windows. I want to see Jay puke a little bit there. The last one we
He's
got.
trying to get me to break my Mac now.
Yeah, the last one we got in here, and I don't know who.
I added this one. You can
did
skip it if you want.
No, go for it. Color Classic Mystic / Tacky upgrade. So go ahead and talk about that, Bruce.
Yeah, so this is an upgrade done to the Color Classic. I mean, I've talked about the Color Classic sort of in some of my vids before, and it became a very, very popular and collectible Mac. It was a sort of computer that when it came out originally, it was sort of overpriced, and it had this tiny little 512 by 384 screen. A lot of people, their reaction was, "Oh, how cute! I want one," and then they'd see the price and go, "No, I don't need one," because it wasn't a particularly practical computer. It was cute but not practical. And the thing is that now, with them being sort of available a lot cheaper, a lot of people are collecting them. They're all saying, "Well, I always wanted one of these. Now I can get one for $100 or a couple of $100 or whatever." And they're saying, "Okay, now I've got one in my collection." But they're incredibly underpowered, and they have, as I say, a 512 by 384 pixel display. But the Macintosh LC, they have a 68030 33 megahertz CPU on them. The Macintosh LC575, a computer that came out later, has a 68040 CPU running at 33 megahertz. Sorry, the Color Classic is 16 megahertz. Sorry about that. I overrated it there. And the LC575 board and the Color Classic board are virtually identical in terms of the size and the fact that they slide into the back of the computer. And so you can actually take out a Color Classic logic board and slide in an LC575 logic board, effectively upgrading your computer from a 16 megahertz 68030 to a 33 megahertz 68040, and more RAM, and you can do a lot more with it. The only downside is that the LC, there we go, there's a 575 board.
Beat me to it.
I happen to own two of them.
The downside is that the LC575 outputs a 640 by 480 display. So the only way that you can then get it to well, I shouldn't say the only way, there are heaps of different ways, but one of the things that people do is they they upgrade that, well, they modify the Color Classic analog board so that it will display a 640 by 480 pixel display. So they've got this mystic upgrade where people are putting a board from another computer into a Color Classic, turning it into a much faster computer. And it's not a particularly difficult sort of hack to do, and you end up with a computer that's a lot more usable. You can put a lot more RAM into it, and you can do a lot more with it. So that's that one.
Do you find, Bruce, and this is because I used to read about this stuff years and years ago, probably, over 10, 15 years ago. I never did the CRT mod on the Color Classic, but I heard, and maybe this is just people doing the modding correctly and suffering the consequences afterwards, I heard it could shorten the display's life. I'm curious your opinion on that.
There are two sort of ways that you can do it. One way is to increase the horizontal something voltage. Someone might be able to remember. It's the horizontal something rather voltage from 68.4 to 84 volts. And if you do that, you put a far greater load on the power supply of the analog board. Now, the advantage of increasing the voltage is you can just swap boards out. You can go with Color Classic or LC575, whichever one you like. If there is a mod you can do which doesn't put much stress on the power supply, it's a fairly safe mod to do. But once you've done that mod, it won't work with the Color Classic board anymore. So you can't just sort of swap from one board back to the other. It's a kind of a one-way trip upgrade.
Is there a way to easily revert that if you change your mind, or is it?
It's as easy to undo as it is to do.
Okay. Yeah, so it's nothing permanent then.
Yeah.
Okay.
You do actually cut things on the board in order to make the mod. You cut traces, but you can always just join those traces up again with a jumper.
So you wouldn't want to do this and revert it again and again. Okay.
No.
Now, is the display on the, because to me, I remember back in the 90s actually doing, we had a Color Classic in one of my classes, and we also had 575s in our library that we used to get on the internet with. So I don't remember the screen size being different physically. Would it possibly be potential, because the whole unit itself is the same size, both of them? It was just a different front fascia, in my opinion. I never opened up a Color Classic.
The 575 was actually the 575 was actually a physically larger display.
Yeah, a 13 or 14 inch.
Yeah, that's right.
9.
That's right. So 9-inch CRT versus a 13-inch, I think, CRT. So no, it was not interchangeable. Now, having said that, I have obviously given the option of upgrading a Color Classic to 640 by 480, but you can actually modify the logic. LC575 will output a 512 by 384 signal. So you can actually do this a simpler way, but the downside is you then end up with a 512 by 384, and some games won't even play at that resolution. So it just comes down to what you want to do with the computer. But quick free plug. I'm just putting the finishing touches on a video about this subject, so feel free to jump on and subscribe to my channel, and you get a notification as soon as the video is ready for watching.
Finishing touches.
Oh, Jay.
Now I do want to piggyback. Sorry, and now I do want to piggyback on that modification, because whether anybody that's a classic collector or anybody that grew up using these computers like I did, and I'm sure at least a few of us have, these boards, a lot of Macs from the 90s, and I've tested it. I had a 6400. You can swap that into a 5400. You can swap a CD, believe it or not. So an old LC can run a PowerPC board. And I used to even shove like these 575 boards into a newer 5400, 5200, because those all-in-ones are the big predecessors to the crappy Moeller Mac, in my opinion. And, a 6400, 6300 was a tower unit, which was really awesome. I loved them. And the only difference on all of those is the backplate that sits on there and how it sits in. But if you take off the back plate, you can swap these things out like hard drives. It's amazing, and they all work.
Well, yeah, it was a great thing. And as you say, I mean, the fact that you could take an old 040 computer and upgrade it to like a 603 Power PC with just swapping that board over was very easy to do.
Oh, and it was so much fun too. Like I did it as a test. I pulled out my 6400 board, 200 megahertz. Oh no, I think it was a 225. But I shoved that in a 630 that I had, and I was like, "Does this work?" And it just boots right up. It's like, I was like, "This is awesome."
So, any other hacks or anything software-wise, hardware-wise that we could think of before we move on? I mean,
I can't think of any. I've been watching the chat. I didn't see anything in there either.
I was watching it too, and I didn't see anything really much that we covered. I mean, there's probably going to be some new hacks coming out for the new Mac Pro. Who knows? But those are probably future stuff down the road that people that actually can afford them and can actually afford to play around and modify them.
Now wait,
Steve, did you lose the button?
Huh?
Now hold on. Upgrading the GPU on the old 2011, 2010, 2009, 2008 iMacs, because they had that MXM GPU cards in them.
Yep.
You could actually swap them.
Well, just don't do like that one dude that we won't mention his name did.
Do it right.
Do it right like Grudy did, and listen to Grudy, because Grudy even told this guy what he did wrong, and he still wouldn't listen. So, yeah, we don't mention this guy's name here anymore. So
no, or his eyebrows.
Yeah, or his eyebrow.
But also plugging in a Thunderbolt, like one of those Thunderbolt display upgrade. It's basically you have this box which has a PCI Express connector in it. You put your higher end GPU in there. You plug it into, say, your MacBook's Thunderbolt, and now that becomes your display, and you can utilize all the horsepower of this upgraded, much more powerful GPU than what came in your MacBook Pro, and you're not overheating your MacBook Pro and sending it into nuclear overdrive.
Well, another thing, it's not really a hack or anything, but I've been reading this on Mac Pro Upgrade, somebody had asked a question about using a 27-inch iMac as a external display, and I was like, yeah, I use mine all the time as a external display. You just have to have the right connectors and have the right graphics card. And for instance, I think it's the 2009, 2010s use mini display port, but then I think the 11 up uses Thunderbolt. They only allow Thunderbolt to be used as their for target display mode. So
that would be correct.
Yeah. So my 2009 works perfect. And somebody had asked, well, what about the graphics card? Is that the bottleneck? Well, there is no bottleneck because all your graphics processing is being done on your main PC. You're just using that as a dumb monitor. So there's really no graphics bottleneck at all. It doesn't matter what graphics card's in the 2009 or the 2010. So it's just going to basically play dumb. But they make very beautiful monitors because they are very high res.
It's a 2K display.
Yeah, exactly. It's a 2K display.
Yeah, there was a cool company that made a little adapter for the mini DisplayPort models that you could plug in HDMI or component video to it. They promised they were going to do the same for Thunderbolt, but I think it was just too expensive, so they ended up not doing it. But
so, but yeah, it works out pretty good. As a secondary display, and they're still beautiful displays. I still like the 27-inch. That's the reason why I kept this 2009 around.
Nothing wrong with it.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, any other hacks we could think of?
Well, in the chat, someone mentioned 10.4 Fox. It's not really a hack, but it is a useful piece of software to keep browsing on your old PowerPC. Same with Classilla. I mean, not really hacks on our end. I mean, hacks on the developer's end. They hacked it all together and make it work. But definitely useful.
So Matt's text says a 2K display is a 1080p screen, right? And that would be a no.
I actually don't even know.
No, it's not.
No, 2K is a little bit,
It's like 2160 by 1440, I believe, is what
Yeah, and there's different
Yeah.
definitions of what 2K is, but the standard that most people say is 2048 by 1080.
Yeah, but
I think you can check that though, GT. You could look in your display settings.
I'd have to go turn my. I think my Mac is off. Hold on. I know it's actually on.
Oh, you.
Who actually turns their Mac
Well,
off?
I turned the
Me. I
iMac
do.
off every now and then. So let's see about this Mac. So
2K is a generic a term which can be used to describe 2048 by 1556, 2048 by 1080, 1998 by
okay,
1080.
this
There you go.
display on this.
Now we say 2K because it rounds out to like 2 million or
Yeah.
something like that. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
this display is a 2560 by 1440 display. So
Yeah, so that's
it's
1440.
it's well above 1080. I mean, well, not much more, but it's still above 1080, which it
Beautiful.
still is a very good looking display. It's not Retina, but you can't tell the difference.
Retina goes 5K.
Yeah, you can't tell the difference. No, I think Retina was 4K, wasn't it? Or
No,
is
it's
it
a 5K.
Okay, but yeah, you can't.
On the 27 inch, it's a 5K.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is it's still a beautiful. I still think it's a real beautiful display. So
It is.
it's probably the best one that Apple.
I mean, Retina is beautiful, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the older
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah,
I agree
I agree.
100% with you.
Yep. I mean, I have it set to that 2560 by 1440, and it works great. I don't have a problem with it. All right. So
Oh, now wait a minute. Hold on.
what?
Londo, he's been turning off his Mac Pro every night because the North Bridge has been heating up and cranking the fans. Yeah, he's got to fix that. He needs to,
Do the Rocky
replace the mounts.
do the Rocky method, huh?
I can. I'll have to look it up. I think I sent it in chat, didn't I? About the size of the screws that fit through the holes, and he could pick up a nylon set. That would work out really good.
Now, would I be correct in saying that we've got 15 minutes to stick to our 90-minute?
Yeah.
I don't think we're sticking to it tonight. We said
We just got to talk real fast
we
like this.
said going forward, so we didn't say nothing about tonight's show.
Hey, let's start up strong, Show people that we mean it.
Yeah.
When it hits
That's a
90
commitment.
minutes, the stream just goes dead in mid-sentence.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Good night, bye.
So
Switch
I
your
have
Discord,
here
bye.
a click. Nothing.
All right. All right. So we're discussing this in chat right now, guys. So we're trying to do some back behind the scenes stuff here. If we should skip a topic or not to get us back on track. So
I think
I'm
we
up for
should.
it.
okay. So
Actually, I think we should skip 2 topics.
That,
Yeah.
All of those are ones that could be reused.
yeah.
So.
Okay. We'll
Yeah.
skip both of those. Now I got to get set back up for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
curveball.
See, I had it set up to go to the next topic. So you see.
I'm just going to shoot rubber bands at you while you figure it out.
You're not shooting them at me. You're shooting them at your screen. Yeah, so Starbuck Tech goes, nah, continue to go for another 2 hours.
I cannot stay awake that long.
Yeah. And he goes, you'll not be sticking to it ever. Yeah. All right, so we're going to go to this next topic, which is basically we're going to talk about ourselves a little bit here. What we do, our channels and websites in a nutshell. And I don't think this is going to be in a nutshell. I think it's going to take about 20 minutes right here.
Shut up.
I will go ahead and start off with mine because mine is the easiest one. I run a channel called Mac Attack. I actually run several. This is actually one of them, Mac Yak. But I also run Mac Attack. I run my main channel, which is just my name, Gregory Thompson, which is the one you guys see me when I chat in Bruce's and all their other videos when they go live. I don't do a lot of videos in that one, but the Mac Attack one, I do some videos about Macs. I haven't done one in a long time. I need to get back to doing that. So that's pretty much what I do. I do have a Pixeless mod that I did there live. Took an hour and a half. And I actually that's my best video, believe it or not. My best viewed video was my hour and a half long Pixeless mod video. So, but yeah, go there and check that out. It's the link is the link to it's in the description. So go ahead and check that out. We'll go to Bruce next, since he's the next one in the list here.
Okay, I have a chat. I've got two main channels. Sort of channels. Two main forms of media. One is my YouTube channel, Brankus Creations, where I am trying as much as possible to sort of share the knowledge I've acquired over the years of recapping old or repairing old computers, just trying to keep vintage Macs going as long as possible. I also have a website called Recap a Mac, where I'm taking high-res photos of different vintage Mac logic boards and with little guides on which capacitors need to be replaced and the different types of capacitors there. So again, that's mainly just meant to be an information resource for people to use. And that's pretty much it. I've very recently discovered live streaming. So I've been doing
Really?
a few of those where I just sort of basically doing what I normally do, but live streaming them instead of just doing them quietly by myself. So and with that, of course, I'm always inviting people to jump on and ask questions about, why I do things in a particular way. I've never ever tried to say to people that my way is the right way. It is simply that my way is the way I have found works best for me. And so if people sort of want to get on and say, oh, you'd be better off doing it this way or that way, I would say, you go ahead and make a video of that. But this is the way I like to do it. It may not be the way for you, but it's the way that works for me.
Yep.
That's it.
Well put.
Steve, you're next.
Hey, I'm Steve from Mac84, and here's another live stream we'll go on for 8 hours about recapping some garbage. Yeah, I'm Steve. I have a YouTube channel called Mac84 that somehow got me doing 17 live streams in a row. I counted. I really want to get back to doing scripted videos. I have a ton written. I just need to find the time for it. And every time Jay twists my arm about doing a live stream, I can't say no. So that's
you do a scripted. It's beautiful, by the way.
Exactly. Thank you. And that's I love doing that. So I want to get back to doing that more. It's not like I have a shortage of topics. They take a lot more time. Where the live streams are more of like this is so easy. Turn on the camera, fart around for a few hours, and talk to people. And it's fun, but it also eats up 4 hours of my life right away. So,
like your life is the only one affected by your live stream.
It affects Jay's too, because he has to watch.
You got a rubber band for that.
That's what I do, and I archive software and tinker around with stuff. I have a website, mac84.net. There's some goodies on there, and I have a Patreon as well. So that's me.
All right. So, Rocky, you're next.
Yeah, the one who hasn't been live streaming very much in a while. I have two channels. I do a little bit on YouTube. I've kind of fallen off that wagon since I got a job. And then I also have a Twitch channel. Now, I do a lot more on Twitch lately than I have been on my regular YouTube, but I do a lot of Mac videos. I was going to start up a Apple Revolt, and then I kind of failed at finishing that. So that project will eventually come back. So just saying.
My hate is on hold.
Yeah, I know. It just roar. But yeah, and I like to do collaborations with these guys, so that's going to be in the future. But that's generally my channel. I do gaming stuff though. I like gaming, so. I like to challenge my old computer, but that's me.
Yep. And last but not least, Jay.
By the way, the reason we're doing this is because people on Discord and other places were asking us, like, what do you do besides MacYak? So here we are.
I work.
And that person's probably not watching.
I have a life.
And that person's probably not watching us tonight. Watch.
Yeah, probably. My YouTube channel is it's pretty mild. I post a video once every few months. It's boring stuff that I like to do.
Mouse cleaning.
It's I clean a puck mouse for 45 minutes. I take apart and refurbish an old Apple display. for an hour and a half. That's the kind of stuff that I make videos about. My website, thehouseofmoth.com, I post the occasional article where I hopefully share useful information about recapping power supplies, certain tools to use on your Mac, stuff like that. So it's not really geared towards a specific thing. It's basically I post the stuff that I wish I had when I was doing a certain task years ago.
What is your most popular article on your site?
By far the Pixels mod.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Pixels mod. And although we checked yesterday, my puck cleaning video got 80 views. 80 people actually watched it.
I don't think they watched the whole
That's
thing. I think
amazing.
there's a certain time limit that considers it a watch.
How's the retention?
I don't know, but it's pretty. Oh, thank you, Matt.
I linked.
Yeah, I
I
did some
linked it
Xserve videos too.
on some of my videos, Jay. I linked that as the end card, so maybe somebody
There
went
you
into
go.
your video.
Oh, and then you
No.
lost subscribers. Like, how dare he recommend this?
What is this? 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Though I have to say, Jay's Xserve videos, I agree with Matt on that one.
Yes, fantastic.
Oh, Matt,
Very
the other
big
Matt's,
resource.
Matt's Tech actually watched the entire thing. I
I
humbly
did
applaud
too,
you
but
for
I was
that.
doing a system reinstall as I was doing it, so I was bored already.
Yeah, but you weren't really into it like you should have been.
Oh, I was.
Oh,
I
okay.
rewound a few parts.
And finally, I have a website where you can look up serial numbers to Apple devices. That is taking up a lot of time recently and will be taking up even more time in the near future, but it's going to be awesome and it's going to be worth it. And you can find a link in the description after the show is over.
Awesome.
That's it.
Okay, so that ends. That basically is what we do, guys. If you notice, I actually did post one in there because Rocky reminded me of it. The Twitch channel. I do stream iRacing a lot on there, so I did throw my Twitch channel in there.
Good stuff. Watch it.
If you're a Prime subscriber, you can subscribe to me for free and help me out. Because
Support his
That's
habit so he can buy more equipment.
I think I subscribed 12 months in
I
a
think
row.
you did.
From what I saw yesterday.
I think I tried to do that. Let me know if it didn't work.
Yeah.
I'll try again.
So basically, the way it works is if you're a Prime subscriber and you have your Prime Amazon Prime account linked to your Twitch account, you get a free sub every month, and you can give that to somebody. It's like $5.
Sub.
I get $2.50, and Twitch gets $2.50. So pretty much that's what it is. Rocky, I don't think is up to associate level yet, so he can't
Nope.
do the subs thing. I am actually, so I actually can make money off of Twitch, believe it or not. So, anyways, but
I do recommend you go with GT because, I don't do it for, I don't do
Yeah.
it regularly.
he needs to get his count up. But go check Rocky out too, and become a follower because he needs to get the followers. That's the main thing right there. So, all right. So let's go ahead and move on to our next topic, which is Steve's archive adventure. So take it away, Steve.
Yay! So
You got 2 minutes.
yes, I'll be quick. So recently on Facebook, one of the Facebook groups, a guy posted a bunch of Mac CDs, and I was supposed to grab all of them, but long story short, I only was able to grab a few. And so some of them I'm not too excited about. There's like extensis suitcase. We got this linotype library. You know, this is a lot of older stuff around early 2000s. Something called U Control. I have no idea what that is. Quicken for Mac 2004. Nah, not really. First Edge, whatever the heck that is. Avid Video Shop. This used to be a pack-in CD for a lot of the Performas and Power Macs. So that's a pretty neat one. We have an iMac applications disk, which has been written over terribly. The guy decided to write AppleWorks twice on there. And this is one of the ones I wanted, an iMovie 2 disc. But that's not the focus of today. Neither is this. This is nice. This is a Stuff It disk.
Ooh.
Actually, now that I look at it, it's for Windows XP and Mac. So it's Stuff It 7 and then Stuff It Deluxe 6
And there's a
for
serial
Mac.
number on
so,
there. Ooh.
Yep. Just screen
Super
snap that.
envious.
Yes.
Yeah, super
But
envious.
the thing I wanted to talk about today is this disc here, and this is Crow Mag Rally. But as you could tell, it's a little bit of a different disc. This says is a not for resale demo. Now, I thought this might just be a demo of the software. I'm still trying to confirm this because I opened it on my Mac Mini here, but I didn't run through the whole thing. From what I understand, this was a demo to just place on Apple's products while they were in the store, because the guy used to be a salesman for Apple stores. Not the stores, but like at CompUSA's computer store, stuff like that. When I put the disc in the computer, it says it's a demo days disc. So I think this is actually a full version of the disc. It actually has other demos and shareware on there. This looks pretty like a full copy of the software. So I will be putting this on Macintosh Garden for two reasons. One, this is the first version of the game, so it is version 1.0. It is OS 9 capable, but it is also carbonized for Mac OS 10. But what is funny is when you launch the system, the game on a Mac OS 10 system, it will tell you, hey, OS 10 hasn't been released as of when we released this. It should work, and we're going to give you patches, to get it up and running. But Macintosh Garden only has version 2 of the game. This is the original version 1 that runs on early versions of the Mac OS. And what's interesting enough on this one is it talks to you about the system requirements. And you need a 233 megahertz G3, and it goes into very specific detail that if you have a Rev A iMac, so that's Crow Mag Rally there, if you have a Rev A iMac or a Beige G3, you really can't run the game. And it actually tells you if you have an iMac with a Rev A graphics card, you should put a Voodoo 2 card in there. So
hardcore.
So this is pretty neat. When I saw this, that was pretty much the only disc I really cared about getting. So I'm glad I got that. So I'll be uploading this to Macintosh Garden sometime soon. I ripped a toast image of it, but I want to make sure this is exactly what I think it is before I describe it and such. But it's always a fun game, and I think it'll be a fun addition to the Macintosh Garden website.
So will you be doing a live stream about this after we start? Mac, yeah?
I have to eat dinner. I started and then stopped halfway through, so I'm starving right now, so maybe.
Does it work on your blue and white in the background there?
That blue and white is just an empty case, but if it was filled with something, I'm sure it would. But I have a Rev B iMac here, so we could try it.
Oh, there you go.
System requirements.
Oh, cool.
Dope.
I can't wait to see it.
All right, guys. You guys got
I've never heard of that game.
Yeah. You guys got anything else you want to add before we start signing off here?
No, I quit. It's been that time.
So Jay, you heard it. Jay quit, so he's no longer going to be on Mac-Yak. No, just kidding.
Nope.
His kid will take over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So yeah, we're going to keep this just under probably 94 minutes, maybe. So if you guys want to, make sure you click that like button. Make sure you subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification icon. We only go on once a week, so you're not going to get inundated with a bunch of alerts and stuff like that. So it's only once a week, Thursday nights, okay? And then sometimes we skip Thursday nights depending on if I'm going to be here or if we're not, if we're going to take a break or something like, Thanksgiving or something like that. So we have a Discord channel. Discord is listed up there. It's so you can go in and try it. Just make sure when you get in there, you have to read the rules and actually do something. Okay? If you don't do it correctly, you will not get access. Simple as that. We're not going to...
And we don't feel bad for you if you don't get access.
Exactly.
I never thought in a million years that would happen, but it's not working. What? I can't figure it out. What? No, that's not. But it happens. It happens.
Yeah. It's pretty simple rules, too. It takes you all of about maybe 2 minutes to read the rules, if that. And so, I mean, guys, have fun on our Discord. It's actually growing. I think we have a lot of people on there.
You want me to get the count?
Sure, if you got that handily available.
Well, there's still a lot of people that were already there that still haven't agreed to the new rules, so they're kind of in limbo right now.
Oh, have they? So, but Rocky is the actual creator of the Discord, so he actually controls the Discord. So just to let you guys know, so we'll go with this a little bit. This is how we we're just saying how we divvy up the Mac-Yak crew. I'm actually a producer. I do the production of MacYak. I actually have the MacYak channel on YouTube, but we all have access to it, so we all can broadcast to MacYak. Rocky is our Discord administrator, the main one. We all have administrator rights, except he is the actual person that does all the channels and everything else on there. So he is the Discord manager, you might want to say. I don't know what you would call that. Yeah.
Though the bot that is put in there that allows the welcome channel, great addition, Jay did that. So I take no credit for that.
Me neither.
Jay and his lovely wife do the backgrounds and the overlays for us. So you could thank Wendy for the backgrounds, although we are using an older one because Grudy decided not to show up. So I actually thought we were going to have 6 of us tonight. So to make it look better, I went back and found a 5 version one. And
I've been looking at this MDD all night. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So
Jay needs
so
to get
thank you, Wendy. So we thank Wendy. She's in the background, does all this stuff for us as far as graphic stuff. So thank you, Jay,
I'm sure
for
he's
that.
going to open the door and pop it in the background.
I know, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
She's probably still watching the stream, so because I see her type something every now.
I think she fell asleep. It's very quiet out there. Or she's watching Picard. Who knows?
Let's see. Grudy, what does he contribute?
Nothing.
He just shows up.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
He brings the chair farts.
Yeah, and dog.
Yeah,
noises.
there you go.
Like no one else can.
Then we got
Yeah.
Steve. He does our archive stuff. You know, he brings all our classic knowledge to the channel.
And our Twitch.
Along with Mike.
And Twitter.
Yeah, he does the Twitter also. That's right. He does. He is the actual.
Just say
Sorry,
I
I
do the
meant
intro.
Twitter. Yeah.
That's all.
I said Twitch.
And he is
Apologize.
the maker of the intro that you see right before we start the show. Bruce is still new with us, so we haven't really divvied up a job for him yet.
I'm still the
we
newbie.
gotta-
I'm the recap man.
We got to get a job for him, Jay.
Oh, but he knows the classic stuff even better than I
Yeah.
do sometimes. So.
Different ones.
Yeah.
Different ones.
Different ones.
So-
Yes, it's shared
And
knowledge.
Mike
I'll
is
give him
also one of
the-
our classic
Yeah.
people.
I'll give him the website since, he loves WordPress. I'll just give him that.
There you go. All right, so that's how we divvy up the jobs here. We all actually take a little bit apart on this, and you guys don't understand. It takes us all week, even though we kind of slough it off until like the last day or two before the show, before we come up with topics. But we do talk about stuff all week long. I mean, we're chatting constantly with each other.
And on Discord,
Yes. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of background stuff that you guys don't see, but we're glad you guys come and watch us. So we appreciate that.
Oh my gosh.
What? Is it Bruce Steve's dad?
As far as I'm aware of,
Well,
no, but
looking at the
it's going to
resemblance,
turn into one of those
look
reality
at the
shows.
resemblance
right?
there, man.
We have a surprise for you, Steve.
And the results are.
And why do I suck at recapping? This is
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you, Trina.
Why don't you have an Australian accent?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I'll try, but I'll butcher it.
you know what it was? It's Steve's son, or it's Bruce's son, but yet he was adopted in America.
Yeah, and that's how we ended up saying
Sure, let's go with that.
Bondi
That's
instead of Bondi.
Yeah.
you can't
And
unsee
you can't
it.
you can't say aluminum right either, right?
No.
Aluminium
I can't say it like that.
starting
sorry.
already.
See, and this is how we keep getting overtime.
All right, guys.
This
I know.
is right here.
Well, that's because that's what we do.
It's true.
All right, guys. So
But to call it out for historical evidence, sorry.
we appreciate.
I see 649 subscribers on MacYak YouTube. I see 146 members in our Discord. And I'm sorry, Steve, do you have the numbers for Twitch?
No, I don't think you can. Well,
I'm
you
gonna take
see
that as a no.
followers, but that's about it.
Twitch? What are you talking about?
No,
I don't
Twitch,
have
you
Twitch.
mean
active.
Twitter.
I'm sorry, I keep saying Twitch. I mean Twitter. I apologize. But,
While he looks that up, we have a question in the chat. How do you become a MacYak Discord top fan or whatever is needed to post pictures and stuff in Discord? I don't know, because recently a bunch of people have gotten some top fan status, and I've never seen them before. I don't know who handles
I
that or
need to
who's
find that.
clicking stuff, but I guess it's all random.
Yeah, ask
know,
nicely at the right time.
Yeah, it depends on the bribe, really.
Yeah.
I'll put my PayPal in the description below.
So for the Twitter, we have 33 followers. So for those of you who don't know, our Twitter handle is Mac Yak Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter. Probably a bit more reliable than YouTube notifications sometimes. So
All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and call it. That puts us 10 minutes over our time. So we'll go ahead and call this, and we will see you guys next week.
Yep. Thanks for hanging out.
See you later.
see ya.
Later.